Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network, based in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Thanks so much for tuning in. I want to talk about Graham Platner, because it's funny how Democrats have been calling Donald Trump Hitler and a Nazi and a fascist all these years, and now literally are all lining up to endorse Graham Platner for Senate in Maine, the guy who got a Nazi tattoo in Croatia when he was with the Marines, and then kept it for 17 years until he decided to run for office, and then suddenly had this epiphany that maybe that's not a good idea. So he got the thing removed. But again, I don't even know what to say. He's now saying it was just a skull and crossbones. I didn't know what it was, yet he got it removed. So you probably did know what it was. But now there's these Reddit posts that have been unearthed, if you want to call it that, graphic posts about hope you already had dinner. Masturbating in public portable toilets, all right, and praising explicit military restroom graffiti, the latest in a growing trail of vulgar comments that could define his race against Susan Collins. She's the pseudo-Republican incumbent. Platner dismissed it as just joking, and he was just, S-posting. But look, this keeps happening. He literally praised Hamas when they killed some Israeli soldiers. This guy has obviously embraced communism as well. Again, it's all in writing. This isn't like, oh, he said, I heard him say this. No, it's all in writing. And wants to blow up the Supreme Court. That's what he's promising to do when he gets into the Senate, that he will start to impeach judges like Alito and like Thomas while expanding the Supreme Court, adding 6 more judges. He's totally for this, and he puts it out there completely. And then obviously there's that little Nazi tattoo problem. Anyway, here's Platner being interviewed by the same woman who interviewed Tucker Carlson. And I got to say, I don't praise the New York Times very often, but in this case, she does her homework. And I like the fact that she challenged Tucker by just simply playing back his own words to him, like when he said he never called Trump the Antichrist, and literally she played it for him, and then he still denied it, which, was a laughable interview. And in this case now, Platner, obviously a Democrat, endorsed by Zohran Mamdani, endorsed by Liz Warren, endorsed by Bernie Sanders, AOC. Again, Nazi tattoo. That should be... if I told me from 2015 that somebody like that would be running for Senate and Democrats would be embracing it, and this guy has a chance to win, I'd say you're crazy. Like, there's certain things that just completely disqualify you out of the gate. And sure enough, here he is against a vulnerable Susan Collins. Here is Platner, however, on that New York Times podcast. And he tries to explain away his call for a violent revolution. And it's just awkward to listen to because he's lying. Cut number 1, go.
Can I ask you about something else? You wrote in 2018 about armed resistance to fascism. You said, quote, an armed working class is a requirement for economic justice.
Armed.
How do you think about that now?
As a student of history, it is difficult for me to not see elements of that as being like a reality, especially in resistance to fascism. We didn't beat the Nazis with smiles. We did beat them with a war. I don't think it's a very controversial statement, to tell you the truth.
I mean, I guess in the context of political violence, some might see it as worrying.
Well, to be fair, I was talking about it as a private citizen with no visibility, and mostly just talking about what I thought was a very clear historical reality, which I would say it's still true. I mean, historically, fascism has been beaten with armed resistance and conflict. I mean, World War II was mostly us and the Russians.
Yeah. The problem is, it doesn't matter whether you're a private citizen or not, right? That is your perspective. And obviously, when he said this in 2018, he wasn't talking about some new rise of the Nazi party in Germany. He was talking, obviously, about Donald Trump and his administration. So when he says armed resistance to fascism, he thinks fascism exists in this country and the current administration. And he says he still has no problem with it. 3 assassination attempt later against Donald Trump. So again, this is who Democrats want to back. Absolutely, go nuts, because Maine is a weird state. It's very purple, kind of libertarian. Susan Collins has to be a moderate in order to survive there. Incumbent senators usually don't get beat. But at the same time, this guy has a lot of money behind him. And here he is talking about dumb Marines. Okay. Again, same interview. And his comments that rape victims need to take responsibility for themselves as if they were the reason why they got raped. Again, disqualifying, except in 2026 in Maine, I suppose. Cut number 2, go.
Are controversial statements also on social media. You posted over 1,800 comments under the username P Hustle from 2009 to November 2021. And some of them are objectively concerning. You said rural Mainers are racist and stupid. You said that sexual assault victims should take responsibility for themselves. This all came out in the national press.
Yeah.
Why didn't you disclose this stuff first?
Oh, we did. We released all of the comments. I mean, when people came to us, they were like, "Oh, we've got a couple little ones," and we were like, "There's a lot more than a couple." So we just put everything out there.
You did delete them though before the campaign launched.
I deleted them a while ago.
Right. Okay. Again, rape victims taking accountability for themselves. I said dumb Marines before. I can't read my own handwriting. Dumb Mainers. In other words, people that live outside of, I guess, Portland, Maine, who live more in the country, are all dumb. Now, again, how do you vote for a person like this when he obviously hates you? They portray him as this guy who's, just a regular guy, a guy who, catches lobster and, just the type of guy you want to have a beer with type of thing. But the problem is that he's obviously an elitist. He has embraced communism. As I said, he praised Hamas. And I would think that this would be the end of him. But the problem is that outside of this interview, which was polite, I shouldn't go overboard as far as the praise here, because I think the pushback was not as strong as it could have been. I'm glad the questions were asked. But at the same time, the national press seems to be giving this guy a pass at this point. Now, again, the general election isn't until November. And maybe the scrutiny will be elevated at that point. But he seems to be just saying this is all in the past. I've changed. And that seems to be good enough, at least for our media, which, again, if this was a Republican who said and did these things, I have a feeling the coverage would be a little different. Meanwhile, Cory Booker, who is just a waste of space here in New Jersey as far as our senator, probably will run for president again, as he did in 2020. He went nowhere. He'll go nowhere again. He is all about cheesy performance art, obviously. That filibuster that went on for 25 hours where you can't remember one thing he said, yet it was historic, I guess, because he just went for a long time. No. If you're going to filibuster, at least have a point. He didn't. It was just all about, yay, look at Cory. He could stand for 25 hours. Who cares? And now he's saying that, you know what? If I go on Hassan Piker's podcast, that just shows that I'm a good leader. Again, just like Graham Platner, Hassan Piker, who also has endorsed Platner, by the way, called Jews inbreds, has praised Hamas over and over again, said he would support them 10,000 times more than he would ever support Israel, said that rapes that went on during October 7th were completely irrelevant to him, said that America deserved 9/11, called Jews inbreds. And now Cory Booker, pretty easy question. Would you go on with this guy? No, I denounce what he has said about the Jewish community, about America deserving 9/11, and I will not give this person a platform. Instead, Cory, well, he's Cory. Cut number 4, go.
Is there value in trying to reach that young, further to the left, anti-capitalist audience that he has built for better or worse?
A leader should reach out to everyone.
Oh, okay. So I guess we can look forward to Cory going on Hassan Piker's podcast. Oh, Piker, by the way, has openly called for the assassination of President Trump. So good job, Cory. He's supposed to be the guy who kind of meets you in the middle and talks about civility. And by the way, what a ridiculous question there. I think that was Dave Parkman. Who knows who he is? Who cares? But he said, would you go on a podcast that has such anti-capitalist sentiment? No, you got the anti wrong. It's anti-Semitic, David. Moron. All right, let's move on. Bill Maher. This is very interesting. If you notice, not a lot of Democrats go on his show. Republicans do all the time. I saw Steve Bannon on there. I saw Megyn Kelly on there. I saw, who else? Nancy Mace was on there recently. John Kennedy, right? Because he does a fair interview, I think. He's not there to make Republicans look bad so his Los Angeles studio audience can, get the red meat that they want. He calls a fair game, I think Maher does. And in this case, he calls out 3 specific Democrats who won't go on his show because they are pussycats, is the best way I could put it. This is cut number 5. Go.
Who haven't you interviewed that you want to interview? Ironically, mostly Democrats, like, because they're such pussies, they won't come on the show. Like the Clintons. Kamala, I voted for you. Really? You haven't interviewed them yet? I would love to. Democrats are pussies about, like, going anywhere that they're not already pre-adored. Not all of them. But, Kamala Harris, like I always say to my woke friends, we voted for the same person. You're just why she lost. Okay? You're a little too precious.
That's true. Kamala didn't go anywhere for a tough interview before the 2024 election. And the one time she did was with Brett Baer, my colleague at Fox. And as Brett explains it, the Kamala people were literally waving her off the stage. In other words, cut, we got to go. This is not going well at all. And I have a feeling that when she runs again, and she will, she's not going to go anywhere near an unfriendly interview, and just hope that if she goes on MS Now and CNN enough, that'll be enough, and it won't be. Not even close. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. Back with so much more in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
We had Johnny from Jesse Waters Primetime, my colleague over at Fox News, go to the Subway Series this weekend out at Citi Field, and he talked to Met and Yankee fans specifically about our new-ish mayor, Zoran Memdani. This is Cut 14. Go.
Are the Mets the Democrats and the Yankees the Republicans?
No, backwards. I'm a big Republican.
The Yankees are Republicans. I disagree. Mets are actually.
You want the Mets to be Republicans and you want the Yankees to be Republicans. Nobody wants to be a Democrat.
No one.
Mamdani, the mayor, has been in office for 6 months. Has it been a home run?
No, horrible.
Honestly, no. He's giving away a lot of free stuff to people, so that shouldn't be happening.
This is actually a place where we need the police, and we actually do need it. And I feel like he's not seeing that.
I think he's doing a great job.
He's doing a pretty good job.
What has he done that's been so great?
Well, I can't even say much. He's just doing a great job.
He just leaves you speechless.
Right. Absolutely. Over the summer, it's mad dog poop all over the floor. Not no more. Not with Madami in line.
Dogs aren't pooping under Mamdani.
Hello.
Johnny's so good, isn't he? I mean, you got to follow Jesse, because this was Jesse's start with Bill O'Reilly doing what's called Mott's Man on the Street interviews, which I've done, as I've said, and it ain't easy. And the quick wit is just perfection. Great job, Johnny. And those are Met and Yankee fans seeming always at each other's throats, obviously, but seem pretty aligned when it comes to Zoran Memdani. Meanwhile, you see the Met game last night, by the way? They scored 10 runs in, I think, the 11th. They went to extras. Each team scored 1 run. And then the Mets scored 10 in a frame in the 11th inning, won 16-7 over the Nats. And my friend Mike Esposito had a funny text when this was happening. He goes, wow, they just scored more runs in that inning than they scored in all of April. It might be. I'd have to look it up, but it's probably pretty close. Anyway, Mark Cuban is now endorsing Kamala Harris. Yeah, really. What am I talking about? Can we do that again, please? We'll take that from my little pivot here, Kevin, if that's okay. Donald Trump is now being backed, it appears, by Mark Cuban. Now, we remember Mark Cuban, of course. He endorsed Kamala Harris in 2024. It was a very active surrogate on the cable news front. Well, now he loves what Trump is doing as far as drug prices. And here is Trump on Cuban coming back from the dark side and supporting President Trump after some pretty harsh words 2 years ago. Cut 15, go.
President, it's pretty remarkable seeing you and Mark Cuban up there, and the fact that obviously Mark endorsed Kamala Harris back in 2021.
Well, he made a mistake. It was a big mistake.
What does this say about what you two are building here?
Well, it says we love people. We love our country. He's got a good company, and he's going to do a lot of business with this. And I'm going to get drugs out through Amazon.
That's right. And Cuban is going to make a nice amount of money on this in terms of distribution, in terms of the company that he owns in this regard. So, and again, always follow the money in the end. I mean, did anybody really believe Cuban when he said that Kamala Harris would be better for the economy than Donald Trump? Of course not. Cuban, first and foremost, knew that. But now, money talks. And here is a flashback, by the way, in case we want to remember the way Cuban talked about Kamala and terrorists, for that matter. Cut number 17. And boy, this aged like milk in a sauna. 17, go.
To talk about such significant policy like tariffs, much less foreign policy, he is applying a machete when a scalpel is what's necessary.
It makes no sense to me whatsoever. To me, I think Donald Trump is the Grinch that's...
The Grinch that stole Christmas was the end of that. I'm sure you can figure that part out. And again, the whole tariffs thing, that was, 13 months ago when the world was supposed to implode. Turned out Trump was right on that one. What he needs to do, like we talk about every night on the show, is get gas prices down. That only happens when an agreement with Iran that is suitable to this administration and this president happens. Until then, $4.50 a gallon, you're not winning anything, no matter how many districts you may redraw in other states. It just simply, just look at the math and look at the precedent and look at the history. Ask Jimmy Carter what high gas prices mean to your chances politically. So that's the whole midterms. That's the whole ball game there, guys. Meanwhile, before we go to break, the biggest phony, at least like Mark Cuban appeared with Trump yesterday, seems like a likable guy. Bill Kristol is not any of those things. This is a neocon who was one of the biggest backers of the Iraq War and, wrote for, I forget what it was called again, the something standard. I'll have to look that one up. It's so long ago that thing went out of business, that Weekly Standard. Thank you. Now he's with the Bulwark, I think is how you pronounce it, Bulwark, which is a bunch of Republicans who know that if you are a former Republican and now you oppose Trump in the snarkiest way possible, like the Lincoln Project, that will get you on MS Now and CNN, because you're part of this resistance that kind of really doesn't exist outside of these guys who are only doing it for attention and grifting. Anyway, here's Kristol now saying that he's all for defunding ICE and DHS because that's what a true conservative would support. Cut number 19, go.
Yeah, DHS really, I sort of had come around to defunding ICE about a month or two ago, but now I'm just on the defund DHS thing. Would this country ultimately be safer if there were no DHS? Maybe there should be TSA. I don't know.
You're kidding, right? No DHS, ICE, or TSA for that matter? And you say that the country may be safer? This person is delusional. And it's just a shame, because I think he's a smart guy. But at this point, it's all about the grift and nothing more. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. We're back with so much more in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
This is just great stuff here from from Hakeem Jeffries. When you know what to play after this, Kevin, that I know. We're doing the whole Jedi thing here right here. Hakeem was at some conference somewhere, and he bragged about shutting down the government for 43 days, where Democrats got zero concessions, and a lot of people got hurt in terms of not earning any paychecks, whether they were worth TSA, DHS, Secret Service, even after another assassination attempt on the president, those Secret Service agents that protected the president were not getting paid at the time. And Hakeem Jeffries thinks that this was a really, really good thing. Cut number 21, go.
In the aftermath of the 43-day government shutdown, where we made the issue, right? We just said 7 consecutive words over and over and over again. Cancel the cuts, or I guess it was 8 words. Cancel the cuts, lower the cost, save health care. And repeating, save health care over and over and over again. That was the fight.
When you think of garbage, think of Hakeem.
Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, look, that was the fight. And you got nothing in return. And again, you shut down the government for political purposes. You showed you don't care about any of these people. And they'll do it again in September, guaranteed, because that looks like that's going to happen. And that's right before the midterm. So, of course, they're going to do that. And then they'll blame Trump. And the media will somehow go along with this narrative that despite the fact that Republicans keep voting to reopen the government and Democrats vote against it, that somehow this will be Trump and the Republicans' fault. Like, that's just the whacked out reality that we're in at this point. Meanwhile, Bill Cassidy we've never seen this before. This is a sitting U.S. Senator, Republican, Louisiana, who voted to impeach President Trump after he left office, mind you, in 2021, and has been a thorn in the president's side ever since. Well, Trump then called on Cassidy to be primaried, and Cassidy got a whole 25% of the vote, and he is out. This is the first time that I can remember that a sitting senator got primaried and got knocked out, and so easily, for that matter. Here's Harry Enton with CNN talking about just how bad it was for Bill Cassidy. Cut number 6, go.
Went back, and this is sort of just going back through the archives to see how bad Bill Cassidy did. He got 25% of the vote, okay? I went back and I looked at every single non-appointed senator. This, in my mind, was the worst primary showing ever, at least since the end of World War II. That is how badly Bill Cassidy did. He did worse than every single one, getting 25% of the vote for a senator in a primary. It's literally unheard of, and that is because, of course, Donald Trump endorsed against this guy.
Exactly. It is Donald Trump's party. It is the MAGA party, and whoever Trump endorses is probably going to win. Just ask those 5 state senators in Indiana who didn't want to do redistricting there in a deep red state. They all got primaried by picks of Trump. All 5 lost. And we could go down the line as far as Liz Cheney. We could talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene. All right, these people, they think because they get on MS Now and CNN and they're part of the resistance that somehow they have some momentum behind them. And no, it is political suicide to oppose this president at this point, who has, like me, Irish amnesia, where you forget everything but the grudge. That's certainly for sure. Meanwhile, Brandon Gill is one of my favorite Congress people. He is from Texas, and the guy he has, I guess, the same kind of sense of humor that I do, in terms of you just have to laugh at people and just shake your head in the name of common sense over chaos. Here is Mr. Gill during a congressional hearing yesterday, asking a pro-LBGTQ plus exclamation point person why she supports teen pregnancy prevention money for trans boys. Yeah, can't help but laugh. Cut number 7, go.
I can't even say this without laughing. Adapting an LGB plus inclusive teen pregnancy prevention program for transgender boys. I can't even say this without laughing. Do you think that is a useful form of our tax spend?
I am not familiar with that grant, but I think bench research, government investment in scientific and pharmaceutical
teen pregnancy
research.
for transgender boys. Do you think that is a useful spend of our tax dollars?
I think government investment in all kinds of scientific research is of the utmost importance.
Including pregnancy prevention for transgender boys. Okay.
He just keeps repeating it over and over again because that's how ridiculous that is. That's certainly for sure. I mean, I still just can't believe that Tim Walz was selected by Kamala Harris after he put tampons in elementary school boys' bathrooms. My son's in elementary school. He doesn't know what a tampon is. He doesn't know what a period is. And Walz did that and became almost, was within a heartbeat of the presidency, if not for a few swing states. Meanwhile, I guess ABC News is just basically just going to say that, okay, gloves are off. Vote Democrat. We don't care. And Anna Navarro says this on The View, and you say, well, Joe, it's The View. It's an opinion show. No, that falls under the ABC News umbrella. And here is Ozempic Anna saying, all right, you got to vote Democrat. And I believe that this is an endorsement by, I guess, a news person or something. Cut number 11, go.
I disagree with you that Lindsey was being honest there. And I think
it's not the Trump party?
No, I think Lindsey knows he's lying, because when Lindsey says that Cassidy lost because he was trying to destroy Trump, no, Cassidy lost because he did the right thing and stood up against a man who was trying to destroy democracy. And the reason that Lindsey and practically every other Republican is so far up Trump's ass, all you can see is the sole of their feet. It's because they are afraid of him, and because they care a lot more about their jobs than they do about their constituents.
This is the Trump
party.
No,
what I will say is this, though. This tells us why As long as Republicans are in power in the majority, there will never be accountability. There will never be checks and balances. There will never be oversight. And so if Americans want this to end, want the abuses of power checked, they have got to vote Democrats in November.
Oh, boy. The best part is that Ana Navarro is, they call her a former Republican strategist. And she did fundraisers for Joe Biden. And now, obviously, going on national television saying that we have to save democracy by voting Democrat. It's so old. It's the same show every day. It's like Groundhog Day, but on TV. And I don't know, maybe I should start my Lent sacrifice now and just not play that for you guys anymore, because everybody is now dumber for having listened to that. Except it gets even dumber here, where, oh boy, I don't even know where to go with this, but I'll just say it. Jasmine Crockett, who has, obviously embarrassed herself, ran for the Senate in Texas, lost in the primary. The person who mocked Governor Abbott, who's in a wheelchair because he's paralyzed, and call him Governor Hot Wheels. That's just sick stuff again. But she keeps getting interviewed. And here, she now is proposing a no tax on blacks whatsoever, because that's not racist at all. Cut number 10, go.
Just this past week, I saw, I don't remember which celebrity, but it was actually a celebrity. And I was like, I don't know that that's not necessarily a bad idea, but I'd have to think through it a lot. One of the things that they propose is black folk not have to pay taxes for a certain amount of time, because then again, that puts money back in your pocket. But at the same time, it may not be as objectionable to some people about actually giving out dollars. But obviously, then you start dealing with the different tax brackets and things like that. And that's one of the reasons.
That's good. My hair hurts too much. We could cut that off. This person actually has a law degree, and she's making an argument like this, which is completely and totally illegal. To cut taxes based on race? No. But again, when you go onto these types of particular podcasts and you're never going to be challenged, I guess you could say whatever the hell you want. Before we get a break, here is President Trump going off on Fred Flintstone. You know him as J.B. Pritzker of Illinois. And look what's happening in D.C. as far as carjackings, murders, crime overall, way down since the National Guard got in there, since Jeanine Pirro took over as DA, and just other measures that have made that city safer, because the mayor there, Bowser, actually accepted Trump's help, which will make her look good politically and maybe gets her a re-election, because she could tout those crime numbers falling as her own. Pritzker wants nothing to do with that because he really wants to be president. Therefore, when Trump offers up the National Guard and Pritzker rejects him, well, that makes him look good, I guess, in some warped way to Democrat voters. And Trump has had just about enough. This is cut number 20. Go.
Bailey or...
Well, I like Darren Bailey. J.B. Pritzker's a slob of a governor. He could call me and I'd send the National Guard, and Chicago would have no crime. Look at Washington, D.C. Did you see the crime stats? It's down to like nothing. People go to restaurants now, new restaurants. Restaurants are all being closed in Washington. Now they're building new restaurants. It's a hot city. We have a beautiful city. We have very little crime, almost no crime. And we could have the same thing in Chicago. All he'd have to do is say, President, I don't want to have any crime in Chicago. Can you help me? Within 3 months, Chicago would be a different place.
What about the mayor, Brandon?
What can I say? He's so big. He's so
big. Trump really enjoys moments like that. That's certainly for sure. And Pritzker's not getting anywhere near the nomination. Sorry. It's just like Newsom. Newsom at least can lie better, and I guess has the look of a president, which is ridiculous that we actually have some people in this country that vote that way. But in the end, Illinois is an absolute mess, as is Chicago. And that's all on Pritzker, who doesn't have that sort of charm, that it factor that you need to break out of the pack. And at least 20 to 25 people are going to run for president on the Democrat side. Many of them not serious candidates. They just want the cable news bookings and possibly the book deal. But some like Pritzker, who have $1 billion of his own money to spend, can make it maybe competitive for a while. But ask Michael Bloomberg how that all worked out. Anyway, wow, this is a fast hour. We are almost up to our final block, so please do stick around. We wrap this puppy up in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
This is really, really great stuff. It's the opposite of that. Michelle Obama just does this insufferable podcast where she just complains about how horrible everything is, including her own life, her marriage to a certain extent, all the sacrifices she had to make as being first lady, that her kids actually had to pay to fly places. And, it was really rough those 8 years being waited on hand and foot as the first lady of the United States. Never hear Melania talk about that for whatever reason. Not even Dr. Jill Biden never complained about her time in the White House. But here's Michelle, once again, I don't know how anybody listens to this, because you listen to it and you're just outright depressed by the time you're done. Cut 18, go.
Country feels like it has a hole in it, and it's a little
like
rusty.
A hole in the car?
Yeah, like a hole in the car, that we're messy right now, that we're confused, that we're upside down. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. Your husband spent $850 million on a library in the middle of Chicago, 20 acres, an absolute eyesore, and residents hate it in that area. And you're talking about how, the whole world's upside down, it feels like we got a hole in the car, while she makes something like $500,000 per speech. Enough. Again, the Obama presidency, those 8 years, was about blaming Bush for the first 7. All right. Then he rams through Obamacare, and health premiums and insurance in general are way, way up as a result of that. And then no other meaningful accomplishments outside of letting Russia just walk right into Crimea without a shot fired. Only ISIS only growing during that time after he called them the JV. Iran only becoming more and more powerful and giving money to its proxies like Hezbollah and Hamas after Obama relaxed sanctions and literally sent pallets, billions to Iran. I could go on and on. But the Obamas do not have the zha-zha-zhu like they used to. Let's put it that way. And Barack was in Texas with James Tallarico, the freakish candidate down there who's running as a Democrat and believes there are not 1, not 2, but 6 genders just as a starter. And Obama's now endorsed him, which I say that probably isn't a good thing anymore when you get an Obama endorsement. Probably something you don't want, given the track record and given the history. Oh, meanwhile, you have to hear this. So there's this guy, Steve Cohen, and he is currently a congressman who represents Memphis and that area. Well, that state got its lines redrawn properly after the Supreme Court said that you can't draw districts, congressional districts, based on race. That's racist in essence, right? It's got to be based on other things like population and so on. But you can't just do it just to include, in this case, a large contingent of black voters. So the Democrat always wins. All right. Seems pretty fair. Well, here's Steve Cohen, again, an old white guy who now is going to go bye-bye and be replaced by a black woman who happens to be a Republican, so I guess she doesn't count in the eyes of Democrats. Here he is talking about how Memphis is now actually being colonized or something. Cut number 12, go.
They're colonizing Memphis. So he doesn't have an interest in help. He thinks he's helping by being benevolent. That's horse manure. The fact is, there's a chance for one Democrat, Chaz Molnar, and maybe one Democrat and 9 London Lamar, a state senator, who could win and legislate and have concern for Memphis. But the odds are, no, it's not going to happen. And that's why I didn't run.
So again, I could go through all the states where Donald Trump got more than 40% of the votes in the 2024 election. And all these states don't have one Republican representing them in the Congress. How is that fair? They've been doing this for many, many years, and Republicans, instead of doing the right thing in terms of, okay, well, let's just not redraw these lines to give ourselves an advantage. Well, they're going to play that game. Republicans just did the same thing in Florida. They're doing the same thing in Tennessee, Alabama, South Carolina, and now they stand to gain anywhere from 12 to 14 seats as a result, which could be all the difference between House Speaker Mike Johnson keeping his job or House Speaker Hakeem Jeffries, which, again, Kevin, we know what to play here.
When you think of garbage, think of Hakeem.
Yes. I'm going to keep a streak going. It's going to be like the Pete Rose hitting streak. Like every day, I'm going to work that in somehow, in some way. So before we go, here is the insufferable Stephen Colbert, who goes off the air in 2 nights, Thursday, and then it's over. And we don't know who his final guests are going to be on that night. He already had Obama on last week. He already had on like Kimmel and Fallon, John Oliver last week. So I think he's running out of people. Probably be Kamala. There'll be some. I don't see who he can get really, and who cares, quite frankly. I mean, I'm writing about this today. I mean, you just go through the numbers of this guy. He's had on one Republican in the past 6 years, and that Republican ain't a Republican. It's Liz Cheney. That's incredible to be. 95% of his jokes are about Trump or conservative. 95. You think there's a little material to work with on the other side of the aisle? Because I'm pretty sure I use it here, and that's a joke. And I could go on, but the biggest number is 40 million. That's the amount of money that Stephen Colbert loses for CBS every year because, for whatever reason, that ridiculous show has 200 staffers. 200. He has 21 writers. 21. So I don't want to hear, oh, he's hilarious. No, he's got 21 people writing for him, and it's all the same joke every night. You need one writer. Trump bad. Trump sucks. Yay, Democrats. That's basically what you hear every night. Anyway, here's Colbert. He planned a Hillary victory party back in 2016, and then it all went sideways because Trump won when no one thought he could. This is cut 13. Go.
That one slice of chicken is union mandated. So, why do we have all this stuff that never made it to air? A lot of reasons. For one, sometimes the world just doesn't cooperate. Like during the 2016 presidential election, we were doing a live special on Showtime and no commercial breaks. And as the results started to come in, it became clear that we had planned for a different outcome. We were so sure that the New York Times prediction needle was right, we hired a bunch of naked male models with the words, "I'm with her," painted on their full plump butts. Sadly, all of those models had to be put down.
Yeah, that's good, Kev, because I know we gotta go. Yeah, I'm with her on their butts. Hilarious. And Colbert admits that he cried that night. Cried. Imagine that. You planned this whole victory party, and then it just doesn't come to fruition. Then he cried after Biden won, and he cried again after Trump won. Again, this is not comedy. This is something far different, and he can't go away soon enough. It is interesting. A poll just came out today from YouGov. Who is the funniest person in late night? Greg Gutfeld wins that poll, with Colbert and Kimmel tied for second, and then I believe Jon Stewart below that, John Oliver, whoever. But yeah, that's the funny thing about all this. You never, the send-off that Colbert is getting from the media is nothing short of sycophantic. And Gutfeld doesn't even get mentioned in any of these stories, and no one bothers to point out the fact that Greg Gutfeld, again, with 1/100th the resources on Fox News, beats Colbert, with the exception of like this week, because it's the final week, so his number is going to be inflated a little bit, by 1 million viewers. 1 million viewers. On a channel, by the way, that isn't an entertainment channel. It's a news channel with opinion, obviously, and we do some infotainment. I get that completely. But every advantage in the world Colbert has, and he still loses by 1 million, and then people are saying Trump got him off the air. Trump ordered for him to be off the air. No, he's losing 40 million. He has 200 staffers for no apparent reason. And he's in a distant second place to a guy that doesn't have remotely the resources he has. And that's why Stephen Colbert is going away. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. 38th special is going to now slowly go up from Kevin as we say bye-bye. And we're back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern time on WABC and on stations around the country. Until then, I got 2 words for you. Bye-bye.